Recording. Well, hey guys, it's Bob Schwartz here at the Home Business Advertiser. I had a few people reach out to me and say, hey, listen, why don't you start interviewing some of the top leaders in the industry to kind of find out what's going on there, post-pandemic, post-COVID. So I remembered, and I just kept thinking about this guy, Larry Lantieri. I've known Larry for about 15 years. Actually, him and I were in a company about I guess it was about 20 years ago now. And we were kind of like in competition with each other, but Larry is always very approachable, very humble, very willing to help me. And then even after we both left that company, he has helped me grow the magazine with a company that he had been doing consulting with. So I just want to hold up. This is the magazine Home Business Advertiser. And then if you want more information about that, you can just check out the description down below. So Larry, welcome to the call. It's really a pleasure for me to be able to interview you like this.
Hey, long time no see. Great to reconnect with you. Absolutely.
Yes, all right, well, let's just get right down to it. You've got such an interesting story. I mean, years and years ago, you started out as I believe it was a blackjack or a craps dealer in Las Vegas, and that's super interesting to me. Like, I don't do a lot of gambling, but it's just such an exciting industry. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, how did you get started in network marketing or in this business?
Yeah, well, digressing a bit, go all the way back to Omaha, Nebraska when I was working for the post office. And we had some relatives in Las Vegas who had a lot of contacts in the gaming industry. So I drove out there with $500 in my pocket and a vehicle that I had to stop every 300 miles to put oil in. And so my uncle calls up one of these casino owners that he knew quite well. In fact, he owned a couple of casinos, and went in to meet with him, and he walked me over to his gaming school, and he said, teach this kid how to deal craps so I can put him to work. And that was my first exposure. I did that for about 18 years. And at one point in my career, I was dealing to millionaires, billionaires, sports stars, movie stars, even dealt to the richest man in the world at one time. His name was Adnan Khashoggi.
Wow.
And he used to come in, and I used to deal private games to him. He would only let certain people deal to him. And he would come in and he'd hold up his little finger, which meant he wanted $100,000. And this is in a private backroom game. And I'd slide him a rack of $1,000 chips. He'd bet 3,000 crap, 2,011, 1,000 each high-low, 20,000 in the field, 32,500 across, roll the dice a couple times, hold up his little finger again. That meant he wanted another 100,000. And he lost $1.3 million to me in an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh,
Would you care to guess how much he tipped us when he lost?
I can't even guess. Tell me how much.
Over $7,000.
Holy cow, what a night.
Yeah, I tipped my crew for that. Can you imagine when he won? There were stories in Caesar's Palace where he bought people houses, cars. It was just amazing. It was total culture shock. So that's originally how I got into it. I dealt to Mario Puzo, who wrote the screenplay for The Godfather, and my wife, Carrie, actually had an extensive background in the gaming industry as well. She was asked to open up the Mandalay Bay Baccarat Salon, where she dealt private games where people were betting over $250,000 a hand. Before I retired her and then kind of stumbled into network marketing about 28, 29 years ago, had some hits, had some misses, and actually did pretty well in the industry. It's quite fun.
Yeah, now that's a good segue into my next question was, so how did you go from being, working the high roller suites and working in Las Vegas? How did you transition into network marketing? I guess first as a distributor, but then also on the corporate and the consulting side of the industry.
Well, I kind of answered one of those crazy ads. It said, drive a Mercedes, wear Armani suits. I answered the ad, and my first company that I got involved with, I was on a crap table. There was a prominent, I joined that particular company. I don't like to mention the name of previous companies, but prominent contractor out of Southern California. And I recruited him right off the crap table, got his information. And he said, come out to Los Angeles and I'll help you get started. He rented a Greyhound-sized bus. He put 50 people on the bus. All 50 people showed up to the meeting. All 50 signed up.
What?
And of course, I'm doing the happy dance. I thought, this is easy. This is how it's always going to work, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be rich. And of course, with that particular program, the compensation plan was so brutal. I mean, you had to have 12 frontline executives, each maintaining $3,000 in open group volume. And if he got to executive before I did, I'd lose him and everyone in the group. So that's how I kind of stumbled into it.
Wow. So, okay. So what, and then I know you got into that first company. I mean, what happened after that? I mean, I know for a while you did step back a little bit to just kind of reflect on what was going on in network marketing in your life. Like, so what came next after that?
Well, actually, I did a couple companies, worked with a couple companies, had some hits, had some misses. I had in one company over 500,000 people, had a couple prominent people in my organization, had Eric Worre and Randy Gage in my downline. Now, full disclosure, I didn't recruit them. Some really good people in my organization recruited them. And then the owners of a multi-billion-dollar company actually pursued me for about a year and a half and kind of made me an offer I couldn't refuse. They offered me a corporate position. I was a director of field development and national sales trainer, and did that for a while and really got some insight, being able to see kind of behind the curtain. But then I stepped back a little bit because I was seeing some things in the industry that I wasn't comfortable with. And number two, I was in a financial position where I was able to step back and kind of decide what I wanted to do next.
And that's something I do want to talk about too, because I have seen some of your online generic videos that are up online. And for anybody watching this video, I will put a link down in the description, because I highly recommend you watch these videos and just kind of learn from Larry and what he's done and what he can do to help you in your business. But I've noticed that you do pull a curtain back sometimes on some of the I don't know if you want to call them injustices that you've seen in the industry. So would you be able to touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, generically a little bit, I certainly can. Having seen behind the curtain from the distributor, the corporate, the consulting side, I did see a lot of injustices. Sometimes we think a lot of people propagate that network marketing is this industry where everything's fair, and there are these industries that are fair to everyone, and sometimes they're really not. And so having seen some of those things, I was kind of lobbying for a kind of a distributor bill of rights. I was seeing lawsuits in the industry, one situation in particular where someone I knew very close to me, they developed a huge organization, and just through rumors and innuendo, they got their website taken down, they got their check taken away from them with no proof of anything wrong, of any wrongdoing. And after, hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuits, and after about a year of, litigation going back and forth, depositions and everything, totally releasing all their information, their phone records and everything, they were just really trying to steal this person's check. When it got time to finally go to court, their attorney said to this individual, "Due to the uncertainties of a trial, we've decided to drop the lawsuit." So, some of these companies, I think back in the day, kind of digressing, I worked one company for, I think it was about 3 years, worked it really hard. And I collected a residual income check for 13 years after I stopped working it. And I had no trouble going into another company. And there's something happening in the industry now where a lot of these contracts are rigged. And they're not rigged in your favor. So read the fine print. So without getting into the weeds too much, that's kind of some of the injustices that I was seeing in the industry. So kind of lobbying for a bill of rights for the distributors out there. We're independent contractors. We're not employees that you can just take our checks and steal our income with no prima facie evidence of any wrongdoing.
Right. And it does seem like some companies do take that position as if distributors are employees. And I've seen the checks taken away too. And that's not a very good or fair situation. So I hear you saying, I started out as a distributor. And then you went into the corporate side of the business. I believe you worked in the compliance department at a company that actually did go on to become $1 billion company. And then also, tell me if I'm wrong here, I kind of see you going out of corporate and more into a consulting role or consulting role. So could you explain that process, or explain your thinking in that scenario?
Yeah, and one company, again, I won't mention the name, but it's now a multi-billion-dollar company. And I was flying around the country almost weekly throughout the US and Canada, and getting ready to go international with them as well. And I'd go to some of these meetings, and I'd sit in the meeting, and lo and behold, two or three people would get up and hold up a bag of medication saying, I got off all my medication after using ABC products. And I've seen it over and over and over again. So I go back to the corporate office and I said, look, you've got a problem here. And some of the people who were, some of the investors said, no, we don't want to touch that. Sales are going up, and I said, you're going to really have a problem. And to their benefit, and to their, they did the right thing. They let me help to do the whole compliance office. And actually, one thing happened after I did that. I was doing a training for over 300 of that company's top leaders. And I just finished my compliance piece for those distributors. And there was during a break, one of the distributors came up to me and said, Larry, there's a gentleman sitting in the audience, and he's got a tape recorder between his legs. I don't know what the heck he's doing. He seems kind of strange. He's not clapping or anything for any of the things going on. And so I approached him and I said, my name's Larry Lantieri. I'm the director of field development. Can I ask what you're doing here? And you got a tape recorder. He said, I'm with the Food and Drug Administration.
Oh, no.
And when I told the president of that company that he was in there recording it, you could have seen the blood drain from his face.
I'll bet. Oh my gosh.
Had those meetings been conducted the way they were previously, that company may not even be in existence today, or there could have been some but to that company's credit, they did change, and they did do a lot of things for compliance. So that's kind of how I got into the compliance part. And then leaving that after a while, after my contract was up, I did some consulting, actually consulted for the billionaire who started the home shopping network. And he wanted to start a company, and he flew me down to Orlando and put me up in $1 million suite, and did some consulting for him. And, the guy was a billionaire. We gave him a lot of good tips on how to build a business, but he was more from the conventional type of business. He's no longer with us, so I can say this. At some of our presentations and meetings, he was screaming at the distributors, you're not selling enough. I said, Roy, you can't do that. These are not employees. This is a volunteer army. So we got it up to about $1 million a month, and he said it's not moving fast enough, and sold it. So I did some consulting, and have done some consulting for other companies as well. That's how I did that, and then kind of went into the hiatus for a couple of years, kind of examining things. Have something on the horizon. I'm under an NDA right now, but should be able to release some information about my next venture soon.
An NDA, so you're not allowed to tell us the exciting project that you're working on right now, is that right?
Non-disclosure agreements. Have me see the handcuffs, the invisible handcuffs here?
I do, I see them. I think so. All right. Well, what do you enjoy most? I mean, do you enjoy being a distributor, working inside the company, or consulting companies?
I love the field. I absolutely love in the field because of some of the things I saw behind the scenes. I mean, it would just turn your head, some of the things I've seen. One situation with one company, a young gentleman comes on board. He's got an MBA, never sponsored a distributor in his life. And we're talking about this young lady who had been building her business for about 5 years. And she was at about maybe 50, 60,000 a month. And this young kid said, she hasn't sponsored anyone in 6 months. She doesn't deserve that $60,000 a month check. She said, they were looking for ways to try to, get rid of her. And I said, look, that's the person that's paying your paycheck, and she's supporting those people. She deserves every penny of that income that she. So I saw some things behind the scenes that really want me to go back into the field and really go back. And there's far more money in the field than there is working in a corporate position.
That's right. And watching your generic online videos, like I said, which are definitely worth watching. I would highly encourage anyone who's on online or watching this video to go there and check them out, just, look up Larry Lantieri or check out the link in the description below. I noticed this too, when you do a seminar or a retreat or a training, two things, you don't charge anyone anything for that, which I think is pretty amazing, because there are a lot of coaches out there that'll say, I can teach you how to do what I've done, but you need to pay me $2,500, and they don't have a lot of field experience. And then you also talk about the 80 percenters, about fair compensation. Is that for the little guys, or, I mean, what are you talking about there?
Let me try to cover that. If I miss anything, at 68 years old, sometimes I walk into the kitchen. I can't remember what I went in there for. So digressing, my first experience with online trainers was actually a gentleman who approached me when I was kind of new in the industry. And he said, how would you like me to teach your distributors how to recruit more people? And I said, sure, absolutely. Well, long story short, this gentleman removed about $30,000, probably close to $50,000 of income from my distributors. They're going to his trainings and not my company trainings. They're paying him $1,000 for personal coaching, and he's not even in the industry. He's not even building anything. And so I had a trainer come into one of my offices when I was consulting for one company, and he said, Larry, he said, I've made over $250,000 in one night with these trainings that I sell. And he said, I have to be very careful. He says, because I can manipulate people. And I went to some of these events, and some of these events were actually designed to break people down. You start at 7 in the morning and you're walking over coals and you're breaking arrows with they want you to get in a circle and reveal the worst thing you've ever done to another human being, and break you down and keep you up till midnight, and then sell you these other trainings, and then have this over your head that you've done all this stuff. Yeah. And so I started to see some things that just didn't add up for me. In fact, one training I did for a company, we're setting up all the tables, and people were setting it up for us. And I look at all the chairs, and he's a popular trainer. I will not mention his name, but there's all these brochures that he can teach you how to be a front of the room speaker for $30,000. Now, these are people who have not signed up a single distributor yet. And as you well know, it takes 10,000 hours to get kind of proficient at anything. Right. And these poor people like lambs to slaughter, and they're getting shuffled from, now you're on this training, now I've got this guy on, and now you're going to go to his training. And I talked to one lady who said, Larry, I've not even recruited one person yet, and I'm in $30,000. And my husband is pretty, excuse my language, he's pretty pissed off. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? So I've seen some things in that training industry that kind of turned me off. So that's why I'm of the belief, if you're in a company, you should be able to go to the person in your company and learn everything you need to know. It's a simple business, a very simple business. You don't need all that. Now, do I like Zig Ziglar? Now, do I like some of those things that are out there, Think and Grow Rich? Absolutely. And I learned a lot from them. But I think there's some abuse in the industry having to do with that. Now, what was after that?
What were we talking about? I did take some notes just before the call. About the 80 percenters. There's a lot of people that might not. I mean, you talk about making $5,000 or $10,000 or $30,000 a month. Some people are just like, can't comprehend that. So the new guy that comes to you, what is the 80% all about?
Well, yeah, I found in the industry as well, having been able to look at total genealogies, when you've had a downline of over 500,000 people, it's kind of revealing when you see a lot of those zeros in your downline, and you see who's doing what, and you see who got a cooked leg and didn't actually build the business, while you're out there telling everyone else that they have to build 2 legs. And some of these compensation plans, they're really not designed for the 80%. They're designed for those 1 to 5 percenters who can jump through all of those hoops that are in a lot of these compensation plans. So I've been lobbying for something that's more fair, more easy to get into, lesser cost. When I first got into the industry, they were selling $3,000, $5,000 packages. Right. And, especially in this economy, I think you've got to have products that are priced right. You've got to have an entry of level that most people can afford to get into. And you've got a compensation plan that if the average person gets involved, they're not going to get screwed, excuse my language, but screwed, because they can't jump through all the hoops and all the volume is going up to the 1 to 5 percenters. So I'd like to see something that's more congruent, more fair for those 80 percenters out there. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, right on. So what were those bullet points you're looking for? Like a lower startup? Is that a lower monthly requirement? And what were some of the other ones?
Lower monthly requirement, lower point of entry. So instead of a $5,000, $3,000 entry, someone can come in and test the water, see if it's right for them. If those products actually deliver what you say those products actually do, let them get their feet wet. It's actually better for the industry in terms of compliance. So you're not front loading these people with all these products they're really not able to sell or move.
Right.
And so that's kind of in line with the general idea of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. And just kind of winding down and digressing a little bit, and maybe on a lighter note, I've learned this about you recently. I did not know this, but I guess it sounds like you have a lot of friends and family in the television and film industry. Professional, what's this about, a professional drummer in a rock band or something like that? Like what is all that about?
Yeah, actually going way back into the 70s, way before your time, I was a professional rock drummer in rock bands. We used to open up for some of these hit wonders. We did songs by Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, all these progressive rock things. And there was this one group that had kind of this sappy love song called Precious and Few. It was #1 on the charts. And of course, we opened up with Jimi Hendrix, Manic Depression. And these 13-year-old girls are looking, we're jumping around the stage and they're looking at us like we're crazy. But that lead singer said, wow, we really like what you're doing. I've always kind of wanted to get out of this formula love song stuff. He was actually pitching myself and the keyboard player. I like what you guys do. But did that. And then in the 90s, did a music video. It was called Big Money. It's up there on YouTube. It's kind of I wrote all the music, played all the instruments. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek view at the acquisition of big money. Has me in a Rolls Royce going down the Las Vegas Strip, has me in a Learjet.
I'm looking that up, man.
Yeah, the lyrics are kind of funny. Money, currency, legal tender. That's what I want to be, a big spender, wealth, opulence, independence, money to burn and time to spend it. It's kind of a catchy little rap thing with kind of an English accent kind of thing. It's pretty funny. You'll get a kick out of it, hopefully. And we owned a beauty salon in Las Vegas as well. But that's what I did way back in the day as well.
Wow. You got an interesting life, man. I'll tell you what. And I'm so glad to interview you. I want to do more interviews like this. So I'm looking at you and you love your wife, you love your family, you love your business. You've sponsored 1,500 people, personally sponsored 1,500 people, have had 500,000 people in your organization, done billions of dollars in sales. What would you say to a brand new person that just, is either getting started in their business or they're in business and they do want to go to the next level?
Well, I'll tell you that this business works by having eyeballs on your opportunity. I mean, you're not going to build a huge business liking people's things on Facebook. And you were very instrumental in helping me actually to sponsor it was over 49 people in 1 month, because I was doing things. I was on the cover of a magazine. I was doing advertising with you. In fact, again, without mentioning the company name, you were instrumental in helping me put together some advertising to get those eyeballs on my opportunity. So, a little bit of advertising. A lot of people say, well, you don't need advertising. But if you look at my cousin, who was actually, he won an Academy Award for Jurassic Park for special effects. And he's done over 100 big budget feature films. But what I'm getting to is they spent more money on advertising than they did the actual film. They spent $65 million on advertising, but it was only $63 million to make that movie Jurassic Park. And a good friend of mine was best man at my wedding. His name's Steve Sharippa. He played Bobby Bacala on The Sopranos, and now he's on Blue Bloods every week. And may not be to some people's taste, but he's an actor. He's playing a part. He's not a real mobster. So, I mean, he's an influencer. And so eyeballs on opportunity and advertising like you're doing here, and you're going to kind of enlighten me on some of these newer things, because I'm kind of an old school guy. I was back in the day putting posters on telephone poles and going office to office, leaving flyers, and you're going to kind of educate me on some of these new ways. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Wow. Well, I would be honored to, and I know I have a lot to learn from you. Well, I definitely know you're one of the good guys. I really do. I love you and I respect you. I've never heard anyone ever in 20 years ever say anything bad about Larry Lantieri, and that says a lot, especially in this business. So before we go, I know we only have a couple minutes. How can people contact you? Someone's watching this video, say, I want to get to know that guy. I want to find out about his non-disclosure agreement. I want to find out about consulting, and I just want to pick his brain to get some help. How do my people contact you?
Yeah, it's free of charge. I know a lot of people, a lot of other companies. I don't mind helping other, it's my way of giving back. Just friend me on Facebook. Just friend me on Facebook. We can DM, we can chat. I'd be happy to help you with, and maybe share some information about some of the things I've been through in the industry that may help you not make some of the mistakes I went through in my 29 years in the business. So Facebook.
All right, very good. Well, thank you so much. It was definitely a blessing and a privilege and an honor to be here with you today. And hopefully we'll get to know each other more and more in the next few years to come. And so thank you so much. I really appreciate your help.
Take care. God bless.
All right. God bless everybody. Be good.